is a real factor in that fact. The most concrete fact capable of separate discrimination is the event. We cannot abstract without recognition, and we cannot recognize without abstraction. Perception involves apprehension of the event and recognition of the factors of its character. The things recognized are what I call objects. In this general sense of the term, the relation of extension is itself an object. In practice, however, I restrict the term to those objects which can in some sense or other be said to have a situation in an event, namely, in the phrase, "there it is again," I restrict the "there" to be the indication of a special event, which is the situation of the object. Even so, there are different types of objects, and statements which are true of objects of one type are not in general true of objects of other types. The objects with which we are here concerned in the formulation of physical laws are material objects, such as bits of matter, molecules, and electrons. An object of one of these types has relations to events other than those belonging to the stream of its situations. The fact of its situations within this stream has impressed on all other events certain modifications of their characters. In truth, the object in its completeness may be conceived as a specific set of correlated modifications of the characters of all events, and with the property that these modifications attain to a certain focal property for those events which belong to the stream of its situations. The total assemblage of the modifications of the characters of events due to the existence of an object in a stream of situations is what I call the physical field due to the object. But the object cannot really be separated from its field. The object is in fact nothing else than the systematically adjusted set of modifications of the field. The conventional limitation of the object to the focal stream of events in which it is said to be situated is convenient for some purposes, but it obscures the ultimate fact of nature. From this point of view, the antithesis between action at a distance and action by transmission is meaningless. The doctrine of this paragraph is nothing else than another way of expressing the unresolved multiple relation of an object to events. A complete time system is formed by any one family of parallel durations. Two durations are parallel if either one includes the other, or 2, they overlap so as to include a third duration common to both, or 3, are entirely separate. The excluded case is that of two durations overlapping so as to include in common an aggregate of finite events, but including in common no other complete duration. The recognition of the fact of an indefinite number of families of parallel durations is what differentiates the concept of nature here put forward from the older orthodox concept of the essentially unique time systems. Its divergence from Einstein's concept of nature will be briefly indicated later. The instantaneous spaces of a given time system are the ideal, non-existent, durations of zero temporal thickness, indicated by roots of approximation along series formed by durations of the associated family. Each such instantaneous space represents the ideal of nature at an instant, and is also a moment of time. Each time system thus possesses an aggregate of moments belonging to it alone. Each event particle lies in one and only one moment of a given time system. An event particle has three characters. 1. Its extrinsic character, which is its character as a definite route of convergence among events. 2. Its intrinsic character, which is the peculiar quality of nature in its neighbourhood, namely the character of the physical field in the neighbourhood. And 3. Its position. The position of an event particle arises from the aggregate of moments, no two of the same family, in which it lies. We fix our attention on one of these moments which is approximated to by the short duration of our immediate experience, and we express position as the position in this moment. But the event particle receives its position in moment m in virtue of the whole aggregate of other moments, m', m', etc., in which it also lies. The differentiation of m into a geometry of event particles, instantaneous points, expresses the differentiation of m by its intersections with moments of alien time systems. In this way, planes and straight lines and event particles themselves find their being. Also, the parallelism of planes and straight lines arises from the parallelism of the moments of one and the same time system intersecting m. Similarly, the order of parallel planes and of event particles on straight lines arises from the time order of these intersecting moments. The explanation is not given here. It is sufficient now merely to mention the sources from which the whole geometry receives its physical explanation. The correlation of the various momentary spaces of one time system is achieved by the relation of cogredience. Evidently motion in an instantaneous space is unmeaning. Motion expresses a comparison between position in one instantaneous space with positions in other instantaneous spaces of the same time system. Cogredience yields the simplest outcome of such comparison, namely, rest. Motion and rest are immediately observed facts. They are relative in the sense that they depend on the time system, which is fundamental for the observation. A string of event particles whose successive occupation means rest in the given time system forms a timeless point in the timeless space of that time system. In this way, each time system possesses its own permanent timeless space, peculiar to it alone, and each such space is composed of timeless points which belong to that time system and to no other. The paradoxes of relativity arise from neglecting the fact that different assumptions as to rest involve the expression of the facts of physical science in terms of radically different spaces and times, in which points and moments have different meanings. The source of order has already been indicated, and that of congruence is now found. It depends on motion. From cogredience, perpendicularity arises, and from perpendicularity in conjunction with the reciprocal symmetry between the relations of any two time systems, congruence both in time and space is completely defined. The resulting formulae are those for the electromagnetic theory of relativity, or, as it is now termed, the restricted theory. But there is this vital difference. The critical velocity c which occurs in these formulae has now no connection whatever with light or with any other fact of the physical field, in distinction from the extensional structure of events. It simply marks the fact that our congruence determination embraces both times and spaces in one universal system, and therefore if two arbitrary units are chosen, one for all spaces and one for all times, their ratio will be a velocity which is a fundamental property of nature, expressing the fact that times and spaces are really comparable. The physical properties of nature are expressed in terms of material objects, electrons, etc. The physical character of an event arises from the fact that it belongs to the field of the whole complex of such objects. From another point of view, we can say that these objects are nothing else than our way of expressing the mutual correlation of the physical characters of events. The spatio-temporal measurableness of nature arises from 1. The relation of extension between events, and 2. The stratified character of nature arising from each of the alternative time systems, and 3. Rest and motion, as exhibited in the relations of finite events to time systems. None of these sources of measurement depend on the physical characters of finite events as exhibited by the situated objects. They are completely